Good morning and welcome to my kitchen. Today's episode is all about cooking with chorizo. Okay, the beautiful cured Spanish sausage. I have a Spaniard watching me just over there. Make sure I do it justice. You're going to love this episode. I've got two incredible recipes for you. Right, chorizo, Spanish cured sausage. Does it everywhere in Spain, Carlos, has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's national. Okay, but you get different types. Sometimes you can get a soft chorizo that needs cooking. You get a cured one like this that you can just eat if you want to as it is, but there's loads of amazing different things that you can do with it. So I'm going to show you first a lovely warming kind of winter stew. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how to break down a whole chicken into chicken breasts, legs and thighs and the carcass. I kept the legs, thighs and wings for this recipe, all right? So if you're an avid watcher every week, you will have this in your freezer too. So all I've got is my chicken thighs, bone in, skin on, all the flavour. Let's make this nice and easy. So little drizzle of olive oil on there, and then I've got some salt and pepper somewhere. Here it is. I've got a little pot of salt there. That's just going to help break that down. A little bit of pepper. And then I've got a big, heavy cast iron pan here, which is lovely for cooking this sort of thing. All right. And then we're just going to pop our chicken in. Skin side down. Straight into there. And let's just sort of leave that to get it rendering and get it going. And let's talk chorizo, okay? So, this is where you're going to get bags and bags of flavour. So much so, look at that little piece there. Everyone throws it out. Don't throw it out, just remember to fish it out later. Okay, so, I'm just going to cut this into sort of like 1 centimetre chunks. I think if you use slices, it'll just disappear into nothing. All right, I want to know what I'm eating, and I think this slow cooking dish will be much better with chunks of chorizo in it. All right, I've chopped the chorizo like little 1 centimetre slices, and they're going in here, and we want the natural fats to render out. Okay, that's what's going to give us the real flavour in here. Want to try a slice, Carlos, just to give it your sense of approval?
Thank you.
Beautiful as it is. Look, so much flavour. And then let's just have a little look at the chicken, see what it's doing. So it's just starting to crisp up. And I actually don't mind those little bits that are catching, because that's going to add more flavour as it cooks and as we add the liquid into it. So don't be afraid of that. Right, let's get an onion chopped and in there. So we've got some sort of rounded flavour, okay? I don't want to add the onion until I'm kind of finished frying off, okay? It's a very kind of loose recipe, this. It's kind of just pulling flavours together and putting them in one pan. Okay, so there we go. Let's just put that to one side. I'm not ready to add it yet because there's a lot of moisture in there. If I add moisture into this, it'll stop it frying. Okay, you see that those little orange tinges there? Can you see those, Carlos? Yeah. That's the natural fats and flavours from the chorizo just coming out. Are we so far so good, Carlos?
So far so good.
So far so good. Right. I'm going to add the onions into the middle. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of paprika. because that's where all that red colouring is coming from. The chorizo is coming out something like this. So it's just adding a little bit more. Just get that reinforced flavour. Okay, and then a couple of garlic cloves. Let's get those in. 3 in fact. So just squash, unwrap. Don't need to worry about chopping it fine. Like I say, this is a really kind of chuck it all in a pan. You could also use the slow cooker if you wanted to. I mean, you don't necessarily get all the caramelization. I would probably take the skin off the chicken if I was going to put it all in a slow cooker. But there is absolutely no reason why you couldn't. And if you wanted to buy, you know, just chicken thighs from the supermarket, you can get them skinless and boneless if you want to. I wouldn't put chicken breast in here though. It just won't stand up to the length of time that you want it to. There we go, in with our garlic. I've got some black olives here, which is a little controversial for Carlos. He's shaking his head. But I think it's really nice. So in with a few olives, okay? And then I've got some red peppers, some little mini red peppers. I'm just going to drain those off. And then we're going to add those in as well. Okay? It's smelling really good, isn't it, Carlos? It is. Is it making you smell home? There's some very homely ingredients in there, isn't there? Ish. It's because I added the olives. He's not happy. Right, in with some red wine. So I've got Beefsteak Club's French Malbec here. Really nice. There's a real classic dish, isn't there, of chorizo and red wine just braised together, isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely love it. It's just so nice with bread, and you just eat it and eat it and eat it. It's really good. It's what it reminds. It's kind of the inspiration, really. It's trying to make like a proper dish out of that similar thing. So hence add in the chicken. But you can see the flavours now are just going to bubble away. Everything in there is best friends. They all want to be together. So all I'm going to do now is add a little sort of chicken stock cube in there. It's going to melt nicely. Everything is just going to marry together. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to cook that for an hour on the hob. Just let it tick over until that chicken is beautiful and tender. While our Spanish stew just ticks away, cooks, bubbling, all those flavours melting together, I'm going to show you how to make a really delicious like chorizo spread. Kind of think Indua, which is like the Italian, Calabrian spreadable salami. We're going to make like a spreadable chorizo. Carlos, what would we call it?
Sobrasada.
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 There we go. It's inspired by that. I was very much inspired by Indua, which was kind of like, oh, that's really good, but what can I use? And I ended up using chorizo, and I thought it worked really, really well. And what we're going to do is we're going to make that, but we're going to stir it through a risotto. It's beautiful. But we're going to have a little taste with some bread, because that's the best way to eat it. And if you're going to make some, make enough for the risotto, but also just to spread on bread and a bit of manchego. Nice, nice. Now we're talking. But let's get the risotto going with the rice. So first thing I need to do is chop my onions. And we need to get those in the pan. So we've got a 4-litre cast aluminium in white that we're using from Masterclass. This pan is absolutely perfect for making risottos in, because you can get in your pan in, lots of surface area, so you can make the most delicious risotto for 4 people. That kind of size, all right? Or if there's only 2 of you, you can make enough for risotto and arancini the next day. Okay, let's get our onions straight in. And then I've got some garlic. Let's just crush that, unwrap it. The good thing is we can kind of get this going, get it cooking, because a risotto takes 20 minutes. You can't speed it up, you can't make it go any faster. It takes 20 minutes to cook, okay? So we might as well get it going and then make our spreadable salami. Okay, so a little bit of salt in there. That'll draw some moisture out, touch of oil. There we go. Now, get my tea towel. Okay, so what we're also going to add is a little touch of smoked paprika because that's going to kind of reinforce our flavours. So like half a teaspoon in there is fine. So garlic, onions, paprika. Let's get our risotto rice in. So we're going to go like 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So let's stir that. The idea is that you actually, when you're making a risotto, you want to crack the rice first because that means the starch will release as it's cooking. Okay? So give it a good stir and listen out for that crackle. Okay, let's get on with our chorizo. So we're going to make this. What I tend to do is I will take half and I actually take the skin off. You don't have to, but when I'm blending it, I tend to because what I've found sometimes is it sort of ends up a little bit stringy in the blend. So if you can, just peel the chorizo sausage a little bit and get the skin off. The good thing about chorizo, it's like natural casings. They don't mess about in Spain. They make it properly. So it does render down. Whereas sometimes, like cheaper alternatives, they use synthetic skins and it's just not the same. So you can just peel it away like that. You've got the time because that takes 20 minutes. Okay, so there's that bit done. And what you can do with this is actually make more than you need because it keeps in the fridge. Great in sandwiches, great to nibble on. Great stirred through pasta, stirred into a risotto. It's got so many options. You can put it in a stew, give it tons of flavour, add it to a soup, add it to a pasta sauce, you name it. Right. Okay. That will do me. So, food processor. And just break the chorizo into pieces. Give it a head start, that's all. No other reason than that. And then I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic, not a massive clove, because it's going to be raw. So you don't want it to be like... Because it's raw, it'll get stronger and stronger and stronger in its flavour, okay? Right, rice is cracking. I'm going to add a little bit of red wine because I've got it. There we go. Good flavour. Always cook with the wine that you would drink, all right? This is a Malbec, French Malbec from Beefsteak Club. It's good. It's lovely.
I never see red wine in risotto.
No?
Never. I see white wine.
Well, I think depending on the colour and like I've made red wine risotto before with monkfish. Beautiful.
Nice.
And you make a red wine risotto and then you dice monkfish up and you just stir it in at the end and the residual heat just cooks it. It's really nice. I always think it depends how sort of dark your risotto is. If you were doing a light, bright, white, like in the book, we did a fennel and pecorino risotto. White wine in that because it's white.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if you were doing I think if you're doing like a tomato-y based risotto, I would use red wine. Because you get that lovely flavour. Okay, so garlic in there. I've got a few tinned peppers that are going to go in there. And then I've got some olive oil, which is going to help sort of bring it together. And then a touch of sherry vinegar, but only a touch. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit too acidic. So just a little splash, that's it. No salt, but I can put a touch of pepper in there. And then what I am going to do is put a little bit of bread in, because when you put the bread in, it kind of makes it creamier, okay? This is more like a sort of pesto kind of theory than a Italian than Spanish when I'm doing that. But I've found that just that tiny little bit of bread makes a big difference. Okay, on we go. Just going to add a tiny little bit more olive oil. There we go. Can you see that, Carlos?
Yep.
Yeah, so now you've got this lovely paste just full of flavour. And we're going to have to try it, aren't we, Carlos?
Obviously.
To make sure that it's really, really good. So I always think a chunk of bread is the right way to try this. What would you say? Right, so it's at this point where you can taste it, you can try it, make sure it's right for you. So what you want to be able to do is really taste the chorizo coming through. I'll try that.
Thank you.
Emily Gray? Oh, she's got her headphones on. She's going to miss out. Emily! She heard. What do you think, Carlos?
I haven't tried yet.
Huh? I think the vinegar in there just kind of works, doesn't it? Because chorizo is naturally rich because it's made from pork and fat and things like that. You've put olive oil in there as well. That touch of vinegar gives balance. And let's face it, that's what we all strive to achieve, is balance, isn't it? So, in with a couple of tablespoons. Now we'll go 3. Keep the rest for snacks. Nice? Good. And then we'll get back to our risotto. So we can add a little water. And we can just start to cook that together. Now, with good risottos, what you want to be doing is adding your parmesan. And I don't know about you, but in our house, we end up with like little bits and chunks of parmesan and rinds and all sorts of stuff because we forget and then we buy another one and then we've got all these bits. So a piece like that, can you see that rind there, Carlos? Yeah. Loads of flavour in there, all right? And if you grate that and it'll melt into that risotto, lovely. But this bit here, there's loads of umami in there and loads of flavour. So what we're going to do is we're going to grate it in and then chuck that skin in. So let's just whack a bit in there now. And if you don't get through it, you can actually freeze these pieces as well. And they'll be absolutely fine. But you might as well grate that in, because that's just going to add a little bit of creaminess to it and just make the risotto lovely. Okay? And then chuck the rest in. And the warmth will just melt and it'll just kind of steal all the flavour from that piece of skin from the risotto, from the parmesan. And it'll just give you richness. Because I actually haven't added any stock cubes to this because I'm not sure it's going to need it. Because the umami from that parmesan skin and the flavour from our blended chorizo is just going to do the job for me. So I'm just going to stir this. Keep stirring it. Keep cooking it out. You can see the little bits of chorizo that have blended up in there now. This is just going to make the most delicious risotto. Right, my risotto's been cooking for almost 20 minutes. I've constantly been stirring, adding water and then tasting to make sure there's a little bite there. I think sometimes with risottos, we can say, oh, it takes exactly 20 minutes. It might take a fraction longer. So 20 minutes is kind of when you start thinking about tasting. So the rice has just got that little bite to it. It's not stodgy. It's just starting to taste like it's almost cooked. So we're going to get to the finishing point now. So with risottos, I like to finish with butter at the end. And that kind of gives it a creaminess almost to it. And then parmesan, okay? So a little bit more. You could use pecorino as well if you wanted to. Just got to remember, pecorino is slightly saltier. Not as easy to get hold of either, pecorino. But it is absolutely delicious. So I've got my bowl. Stir your butter in. So your butter's like the last thing to go in. You don't really want to be cooking it. And what you'll notice is it starts to just go a little bit lighter because it's almost like adding cream because, you know, butter's made from cream. So that's why it starts to go that way, and it just makes it so lovely. You know, I mean, if you don't want to add it, don't, you know, if you're trying to count the calories a little bit and you think, well, I'd rather have Parmesan than butter, don't add it. But it is really nice with the butter, and it makes the difference, if you ask me. Okay, so that's it. That is our risotto that's been flavoured with like a beautiful, almost a chorizo pesto, if you like. Or what did you call it, Carlos?
Sobrasada. Sobrasada.
Soba al sala.
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay, risottos should sit flat. They shouldn't sit in a big bulk, all right? They should loosen out, okay? Little touch of olive oil for Karen, because she thinks I'm weird when I put olive oil on things, doesn't she?
Oh, she does.
And then a few black olives just dotted around. They don't need cooking, yeah? They just need finishing like that. And you'll just enjoy them as they are. Whatever olives you like, and then just finish with a little more Parmesan. And that is how you make the most delicious risotto using chorizo. Right, my chorizo stew has been ticking away nicely on the hob. Are you ready for this, Carlos?
Yep.
This is your kind of thing, this, isn't it? Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. All those lovely flavours are just so happy to be in the same pan. Do you know what I mean? And all I'm going to do is just add a little bit of tomato, like it's like a passata, and that's just going to make it into a sauce now rather than just a stock. And then I've got some butter beans, okay? So I'm just going to drain these off. These really don't need cooking at all. They just need to warm through, and that's it. So I'm just going to pour them through, give them a quick rinse, and we're good. There we go. Let's just add some of those butter beans in there. And then just carefully stir it together. All right? But look, like if I show you this chorizo, look, it has just, it's given out all its flavour, but in return, it's absorbed all the red wine. And it's just the most wonderful combination. If you've got a really cold, dark, wintry evening, this is going to be exactly the right dish for you. Now, don't forget, if you want the recipe for this beautiful Spanish stew or the risotto, sign up for our weekly newsletter and we'll just deliver it to your inbox, okay? If you've missed it, I will resend any new sign-ups. I will resend the email so you haven't missed it, because this recipe is just to die for. If you like this recipe, make sure you share it with your friends, this video, and your family. Let's spread the word. Let's get everyone cooking amazing food like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.